as you mentioned, stable coins, right? And Dragonfly has invested in new age stable coins like Ethena and Aurora, right?
Yep.
What is your thesis on these new stable coins? Do you feel that the existing ones like USDT, USDC, who've like the market share, like they're dominating, right? They're giants. How will these compete, and why are they required right now?
Yeah, I mean, like Ethena is already the second biggest on-chain stablecoin in crypto behind Maker.
Right.
It's just been, an absolute amazing, kind of first few months of them being live. Agora is a little bit different in that I see it more as like a USDC type competitor. So I'll mention the two of them like a little bit differently. I think the reality is on the centralized stablecoin side is it's been a duopoly for a while. Tether obviously being kind of the first and been around for a long time. Circle being around since 2018 or so. And these markets, or these companies, have essentially dominated the market in such a way that they haven't had to adapt or evolve. And so, Tether is interesting because I think, Tether continues to be, it's between 70 and 80% of the market depending on the time, and has found just amazing product market fit, especially in emerging markets for trading use cases, for peer-to-peer payments use cases. So you see it with, over $40 billion of USDT on Tron being used in places like, Southeast Asia and then
emerging markets.
Yes, a lot of these emerging markets, exactly. USDC is interesting because, and I'm gonna, at the risk of being, kind of, I guess, bearish circle, like they have, in my mind, not really found like their niche because they continue to kind of try to go and have it, the best of all ways. So, they've tried to pitch themselves as the more regulated stablecoin, but they're not actually, regulated in even the same way Paxos is. They've, if there is stablecoin legislation that were to require stablecoins to be a bank, like JP Morgan or one of these types of players would come in and I think, really put a big dent in their business. And, for things like trading use cases and payments use cases, they are starting, USDC is the most dominant stablecoin on Solana, and it's the most dominant stablecoin on like Cosmos and DYDX. But it's kind of paled in comparison to the use case of USDT. And they haven't really adapted to things like, sharing, have some revenue share with their customers. And so one of the things that Agora, I think, is doing really well, and I think will have a lot of, will be able to incentivize a lot of customers to use them over something like USDC, is that they have this model where they can do, revenue share with their customers, and that they can do so in a better and more regulatory compliant way than, someone like a Circle can adapt to right now. And so we believe strongly that in that model, Agora is essentially adapting to the market and putting, pressure on the market in a way that just hasn't existed for a while. But also with, kind of the institutional backing needed for a, that type of stablecoin with, VanEck obviously being the entire back end there. Ethena, entirely different monster, right? There's an obvious need and use case for a, on-chain decentralized stablecoin. And there's also just obviously like a lot of hunger for yield on-chain, and bringing that basis trade on-chain has clearly shown a lot of product market fit.
But we've seen how that hunger for yield can go wrong with Luna and Terra as well, right? So
That's
how
fair.
do you address the risks associated with that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's different, right? So Luna and Terra, the UST only was able to hold its peg if there was continuing new issuance, right? And you had to be able to incentivize that continuing new issuance, and the collateral that was continued to put into like Luna was things like Bitcoin, right? And we saw this with, and we've been seeing this with the Jump trial that's been going on right now. But they had to cut very big deals with these large market makers so that it didn't spiral out of control.
But then Ethena also added Bitcoin as collateral recently.
Yeah.
So how do you look at that?
Yeah. So Ethena is entirely different, right? Because and I can talk about the basis trade a little bit, but like when you do a basis trade, right? You go long spot, you go short the future, right? So you're delta neutral, right? Because you're short the future, you're getting paid the funding rate, whatever that is, because the people who are on spot want to or want to go long, they want to to be lent that collateral, right? So whether that's ETH or Bitcoin, you're delta neutral. You're not just using Bitcoin as collateral to be able to sell into the market when the token needs to repeg, right? And the concern around Ethena has always been not does whether or not you can keep the peg during the basis trade while the funding rates are positive, but what happens when the funding rates are negative, right? And so the funding rates have actually gone negative the past couple of days for the first time, and we've seen slight depegs, but they've been very slight and been able to repeg as either one, the funding rate went positive again, or you can sell down things like an insurance fund and you can unwind the trade.
Yeah, I think it was depegged for like 30 minutes and it was just like at 0.97.
Correct, that's right. And so the difference with the basis trade is that you can unwind it. There's a lot of debate about how quickly you can unwind these things, but anyone who's been in a shop like Golden Tree or anybody else who's done this type of trade understands that depending on market liquidity, you're going to be able to unwind that trade within some reasonable time frame. And even if the annualized funding rate is negative at some deep discount for that period of time, the actual total amount of loss is relatively small, and you can either one, socialize that risk, or you can two, put it in an insurance fund. Ethena is today topping up an insurance fund to cover people for that period of time, but the likelihood of the funding rate staying negative for such a time that there is going to be some sort of long-term peg issue has never happened before in crypto. Now there's black swan events and etc., and that's why you have a large insurance fund, but the type of thing we are talking about is something that would be so out of the realm of what has ever happened in crypto that you still have to plan for the black swan event, but it seems it's very unlikely that we would have a sustained